Okay, so I'm excited for this because this is doing something a little bit different with my review segment. I really wanted to do something with LGBTQ music in response to a blog post I put out a few weeks prior. So I decided to reach out to Monica Biltz, right? Monica Biltz.
You got it. You got it.
Who is, we'll say, an aspiring podcaster, filmmaker. I mean, you are a barista, you told me.
I am not an aspiring barista anymore. I'm a barista now, but
You
yeah.
are a barista, so you have that title, but you do
I
have
have that.
yeah, and you do have your own podcast. Do you want to just let
Mhm.
people know what it's called and like what you cover? And kind of the reason why I reached out to you is because you cover this type of material, but in a different format.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a podcast called the Gaze Code Podcast, and we talk about the history and evolution of LGBT um, representation in Hollywood and beyond. Basically, just film history, TV, how throughout the years gay people, queer people have made appearances in things as actors, how they've been portrayed as characters, the content they've created themselves, and how it's changed over time. And it's a lot of fun. We just love talking about gay movies and stuff. It's good.
It's good. It's all good. And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
recruited Monica to come onto On Rotation, because I really want to talk about the evolution of LGBTQ music. And like we were saying before we got on, you like prepared the hell out of this. Like,
I went overboard too much. Went too hard on it.
but there's no such
But
thing as
it's
over
good,
prepared.
right?
Yeah, I think it's
Is there?
good.
If there is, then I've done it. But yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna be reviewing like LGBTQ music through the decades, different like, gay icons, people that have really made an impression on LGBTQ music and that sort of thing. And I guess like I kind of want to start by asking you, Monica, where like your research kind of started going back to the 50s, I think you said, right? Like would you say that's kind of when LGBTQ music really started to kind of become more in the forefront and like popularized?
Yeah, so I do want to start off with saying that I'm definitely not a music expert. So if I say anything that's technically not correct, please let me know, because I had so much fun diving into this, but it's not something I've been well versed in for years and years or anything like that. But from what I've seen, there's always been queer people making things and being included in these types of artistic spaces, especially the artistic spaces such as music, theater, film. Um, and there's little fragments of them that we've found, but the further on we get, like the 50s and 60s, 70s, obviously the sexual liberation movement and everything, that's when they really start being loud and proud and
Mhm.
out there and more apparent and when you look back. But they've always been there. Like you can find like obviously gay and queer artists in their songs and their lyrics and things like that. Like I have found some of the gayest lyrics from songs from the 40s and stuff. So it's good. It's
That's
so
awesome.
cool. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I was like just thinking about that too. Like you don't really think about it too much during those decades. Like I always, and I feel like most people associate like the 80s and the 70s, like that time period when like LGBTQ and queer culture was really coming to the forefront, because you had people like I always think of Elton John as like a huge person that really brought to
Mm-hmm.
light a lot of LGBTQ, and he was very open too about his journey coming out and even like struggling with that sort of presence. Madonna obviously was like a huge icon in the 80s
Oh
for
yeah.
LGBTQ culture. But who are some of the people that you found that like were kind of before that, if you did find anyone?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely some of the things I found in the 20s, 30s, and 40s was a lot in kind of the blues. There was a
Mm.
lot of queer women who expressed themselves in the blues and like the deep south. Ma Rainey was one of them, who was just been in that recent Oscar
Oh
nominated
yeah.
movie. Yeah, I hadn't seen it, but I recognized that name instantly, even though I'm not like a blues person, just because of that movie. But so she was dubbed like the mother of the blues,
Hmm.
and she has a song called "Prove It On Me Blues" that has some of the gayest lyrics I've ever heard. But it's went out last night with a crowd of my friends. They must have been women because I don't like no men. And I was like, okay, that's pretty gay.
Okay.
That's just straight up, that's pretty gay, you know? Yeah, in 1935, Bessie Jackson, who's another famous blues singer, released a song called BD Women Blues, and BD just straight up stands for bull dyke. That's what it means when she sings about it.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, she has those lyrics are like, come in a time, BD women, they ain't gonna need no men, and BD women, you sure can't understand. They got a head like a sweet angel, and they walk just like a natural man. And I was like, yes, let's talk about butch ladies in our lyrics. That's awesome. You know, so, but yeah, for sure, it was more few and far between. And during like the 50s, it got more apparent and obvious and out there for sure.
And that's interesting too, that blues music was kind of a foundation for that, because blues music, like this is where like my music expertise kind of comes in.
Yes,
this is good.
please.
We can like bounce each other off. Like blues music is such a foundation for all music. Like you can trace the origins of any genre, rock, hip hop, pop, whatever, back to blue music, and like especially like bluegrass and jazz and all that stuff, especially from the South, where those artists like Ma Rainey and Bessie, like you mentioned, like they were probably really starting their careers. So that's awesome. I think that's so cool that, you know, they're kind of like dropping those little hints in their lyrics and things like that. And then it's like, as we progress, obviously things become a little bit more apparent with artists and musicians just being like, hey, I'm gay, like I'm queer, I'm bi, whatever.
And I know that, like, I'm guessing that the blues kind of inherently comes out of suffering, right? So, like, a lot of it is about the Black experience in the Deep South during those times. And I'm guessing probably the queer experience is included in that, because the blues is kind of about singing about hardships during those times. And so, like, it doesn't surprise me that queer lyrics would be included in that type of space as well, you know?
Yeah,
But,
I think that makes perfect sense. Something else that is interesting with LGBTQ and queer music too is that, have you ever, and I don't like want to stereotype, but I feel like this is like kind of a stereotype that's true, is that like gay music, quote unquote, is like a certain type of genre. You know what I mean? Like dance, like very like energetic. Is that something that you would kind of agree upon and see just like a trend in some of the artists you found, like as we get a little bit more contemporary?
I think as it moves more into the 70s and 80s, you definitely see it a lot in like disco, pop, things like that. One of those reasons being, I feel like, is that gender expression was a lot more like you were freer to do that type of thing. Like you have really flamboyant and big performances and more effeminate male performers, whether or not they were gay or straight. So it was a space that these queer people could easily glide into and kind of occupy, because the norms were already starting to be thrown out. Like during the 60s is kind of when it was more like, let's do what's not traditional and normal and kind of break some stereotypes. So it was a really good space for these queer people to move into. So definitely, I totally see dance and disco and pop music and things being the first areas, and kind of still not so much disco anymore. But you know, like still those are. I think just now we're starting to see gay artists in every genre, because they're kind of allowed to be in every genre now. But yeah, for sure, I totally see where you're coming from. If that is kind of the first thing that pops into your head when you think about quote unquote gay music.
Yeah, for sure. And just like I think a really good exploitation of that is the show Pose, if you've seen it or like heard of it.
I've heard of it. My girlfriend's obsessed with it and watched the whole thing, and I have not seen it, but I've heard that it's very good.
Yeah, it's very good. I haven't watched the whole series. I watched like a few episodes, I think last summer is when somebody introduced it to me. And it is good. Like, it's a really good show that exposes how the underground, like, pose culture and voguing and all that stuff, like, really came to be. And kind of like something you just mentioned, how it became acceptable and it became an area for people to just express themselves fully. You know, like even like I
Mm-hmm.
just saying that, like literally the Madonna song "Express Yourself" was like the huge anthem during that time too. That was like, it's okay to be who you are and it's okay to express who you are. You know, let's
Mm-hmm.
ditch the labels, ditch the judgment, whatever. You know, just be who you want to be.
Yeah, and that's not bringing up Madonna. I don't know if Madonna herself is queer at all. I don't think she is, but it's
Yeah.
very interesting to me whenever there are artists who are, um, by all means, straight, becoming gay icons. You know, that's the
Hmm.
coolest and weirdest thing to me because we saw that a lot in the 70s and 80s too. Like a lot of the gay anthems were sung by people who weren't gay at all. And sometimes, you know, a lot of times they were totally like in the queer community and a part of it and behind it and everything. But that is one thing I mainly focused or looked into queer artists themselves, but that is something that's always fascinated me, that
Yeah.
these people who have become gay icons who aren't gay at all. So interesting.
Yeah, I'm like trying to think of some, especially nowadays, that are in that category. Like, I don't know if Dua Lipa has ever like alluded at her sexuality. I think she might be, because her
Mhm.
song, I think it was Don't Stop Now, when she talked about, did like a full 180, and she kind of talks about being out with the girl like at the club. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of hinting that she might be a little bi-curious, but she's never like
Mhm.
had some kind of statement saying like that she is bi or queer or whatever. So that's like just
Yeah,
me
and a
thinking
lot of
about
these
that point.
people, yeah, a lot of these people, like if you give it 10 years, they do come out at some point, you know, like you just give them a little bit of time and they do, especially if they're already like so prevalent in those queer spaces. It's like,
Hmm.
um and sexuality is so much on a spectrum now that I feel like people are more able to come out now as something that, even, you know, if they were famous in the 60s, 70s and 80s, they'd be like, well, I'm basically straight, I think I'm just straight, you know.
Hmm.
So it's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah, and like on that topic too, about people just kind of being in their career for a while and then eventually saying like, "Oh, I'm, you know, whatever," or like
Mm-hmm.
coming out. Like the blog post that I mostly based that off of was from Kalani when she came out officially as lesbian, and she's someone who's been in the music industry for a while, and she had
Mm-hmm.
never like said she was lesbian. She even at one point said she wasn't. She was like, "I don't identify as lesbian," and then like
Yeah.
then she was like, "Oh, I'm bi," and now people are like, "Well, maybe she isn't bi. Maybe she is lesbian." And she's like, "Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like there's literally like it was in a video. She's like, "Yeah, like I'm gay. Like I'm gay." Like she made it,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
like she made it a point. And like Demi Lovato too came out as pansexual recently, which is like another thing that people were, I would think, not that shocked about, because like she did drop like hints with Cool for the Summer that came out a few years back of being
Mm-hmm.
bi-curious and things like that, but now she's really like gone for it. Like she's like shaved her head, she's changed her look, like she's just like all
Literally
out there.
today, 30 minutes before this we started recording this podcast, Demi Lovato like tweeted something and came out as non-binary and uses they them pronouns. Like
Oh,
I
no
read that
way.
30 minutes before we started recording this podcast and I was like, "Holy shit." Because like because I read your blog post and you talked about Demi Lovato, and I brought up, I'm going to bring up Demi Lovato later on in this thing, and I was like, "Dang, like that's wild."
That's awesome. I missed
Yeah,
that, so
very
that's awesome
cool.
that you caught that.
Yeah.
Somebody else that I loved too when they came out as non-binary was Sam Smith.
I know. Yeah. I felt so bad because I talked about Sam Smith for a hot minute in my latest podcast, and then my girlfriend was like listening to it, and my girlfriend's also non-binary, uses they them pronouns,
Mhm.
and like texted me and was like, you misgendered Sam Smith the entire time that you were talking about them," and I was like, "Damn it!" Like I
Oh
usually am really
yeah.
good about that, but because and Sam Smith, they did that like a few years ago, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it
And
was like 2 or 3 now.
yeah, and so that was 100% my bad for not like just doing a quick putting my eyeballs on the internet for 5 seconds and finding that out. But yeah, it's more and more artists lately are coming out as gender fluid, non-binary, and different things like that, which I saw a lot from like the 2010s on, which I didn't see so much in earlier stuff. And
Mhm.
I just think that's because people have the space now to do
Yeah.
that versus they probably didn't even have the language or space to explore their gender as much in
Yeah.
60s, 70s, 80s, and whatnot.
And
But
something that
yeah.
I noted at too when I did that blog post was just the acceptance factor and like the
Mm-hmm.
open-mindedness. Like this generation of music fans and like movie and TV fans are just more open and they're more like well versed in that in these concepts where it's like, it's not strange to them.
Yeah. It's the more exposure you have to something, the less shocked by it every single time you see it. So as a society, someone else comes out as anything other than cis, you're a little bit less like surprised by it or like, oh, okay, like just automatically, just because the more exposed you are to something, the less of a taboo thing it is, or the less shocking it is. Like whether you like it or not, you're gonna get used to it, which I think is good.
Yeah, someone else I just thought of too, because I just did my last episode on her album, is BB Rixa, because I referenced an article that she was quoted in or did a whole feature with the Gay Times. And she was saying like she's coming to terms with her sexuality and saying that she's, been attracted to women. She's in a relationship with a man. She's been in relationships with men before in the past, but she's someone else who's kind of coming to terms with her sexual fluidity. Rita Ora actually, I think, was somebody else that I saw recently, or maybe, I don't know if it was that recent or maybe a year ago. Like she was kind of coming to more terms with like her sexuality. And this was actually a question I wanted to ask you, if you have ever heard or know her song Girls that she has with Charlie XCX, Cardi B, and there's somebody else on that.
No, I haven't
BB
heard that
Rexa.
one.
Yeah, like it's actually interesting. So I have it written down like on some songs that I have to reference about LGBTQ and things of that sort. So I was reading about that song one night, and I guess like she kind of came under fire because the song talks about like the main gist of the song is kind of just saying sometimes I just want to kiss girls in like in a very like nonchalant but like also ignoring type of way, like, oh, like, maybe I just want to kiss girls when I'm drunk, or maybe just like for a fun thing, you know what I mean, and not really like taking it seriously as a concept and saying, some people actually are attracted to women who are women. So I think she actually came under fire for that song and saying, that's like a serious topic. I think people thought she was kind of poking fun at it in a way. And it's actually interesting because I want to make this connection. An artist that really attacked her on it was Haley Kiyoko, who
Really?
is like a huge LGBTQ plus like advocate. Like she's I think she's won some awards too. And especially as a young artist, like she's a huge voice in that community. I don't know how much you were aware of any of that, but I just wanted to dump that on you and get your thoughts.
And this is me not having heard the song, but my first impression, my first reaction anyway, is wanting to just kiss girls when you're drunk, but still identifying as straight is okay too. Like I think people can be a little bit too nitpicky on that type of thing because, when Katy Perry released I Kissed a Girl, that was celebrated when that came out.
Yeah.
That was celebrated. And that was, maybe just because it better fit the time, But there's totally nothing wrong with experimenting with saying that you enjoy maybe kissing girls, but maybe not anything else, but whatever. Like everything is valid. Sexuality is strange and it changes. Like you can identify as one thing and a few years later identify as something else. My cat's jumping around, so and I think that, and this is me, like I said, not having heard any of the lyrics or anything, so maybe it is a little cringy or something like that, but I really don't think that people should be so ready to attack somebody when it comes to them talking about their exact sexuality. If that is exactly how she feels, and that's valid, that's okay. Sing a song about it. Sing a song about how it's fun to kiss girls, even though maybe you are straight, it's, know. But I can see how some people could not like someone talking about it without as much reverence or respect to the LGBT community. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, like I said,
what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so like I have heard the song and I never really thought of it in that capacity
Mm-hmm.
until I saw what Haley Kiyoko had said about it. And I kind of thought like, kind of like on the same page as you. I think she might have like took it a little bit too far and like
Mm-hmm.
accusing Rita Ora of maybe putting a message out there that she wasn't actually intending on. But like that's why I also made that point earlier to say I think Rita Ora now has kind of explained like she's a little bit more sexually fluid than 100% straight, or that's not even really a term, but
But
everything's on a
what if she
spectrum.
wasn't even ready to come out yet? What if she felt pressure to come out because people
That's
were like,
also
"How dare
true.
you sing about that if you're straight?" It's just it's
Yeah.
not good to pressure people, but
Yeah, it's interesting. And yeah, like I said, it's just what caught my eye about that case is because Haley Kiyoko is such a huge voice in that
yeah.
community. So people are going to listen to her. Like, I feel like because she is very open, I think she identifies as lesbian.
Mhm.
So she is very open about her sexuality and people look to her for that kind of stuff. So yeah, like from hearing the song, and I actually liked the song, like I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it really like sent that kind of message along. I didn't think it was offensive in any way.
Mhm.
um I thought it was interesting that somebody with such power, I guess you could say, in the queer community had so much to say about it in a negative way.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got to be careful when you have that type of power because you really can be mad at this person. Like
Hmm.
tell people you should be mad at this person. And they probably will be, because it's like I think Haley Kiyoko is awesome and a badass and a great artist and um but maybe she and her feelings are also valid. I will say that if she took offense to it, then there's probably some reason why that she found that to be disrespectful in some way, and that's fine too.
Hmm. And I want to kind of transition now into talking more about specific songs and like
Yeah.
things, or like songs that could be labeled as like gay iconic songs and things of that sort. And like just from the list that I had pulled when I wrote that blog post, Haley Kiyoko's song, still speaking on her,
Mhm.
Girls Like Girls, I think is a huge example of love and acceptance and
Oh yeah.
showing who you love. And actually, one of my friends had showed me that song a couple years back when it came out. And I was like, this is like, she had said it was so cute. And then I listened to it. I was like, this is really cute. Like, I
Mhm.
think I think that's a huge component when it comes to these quote unquote gay iconic songs, where it's just all about like love and acceptance and just being who you are. Would you agree?
Mhm. Oh yeah, it's a bop. It's a great song. I and the music video is great too because
Yeah.
and she directed it. I'm pretty sure she directed the music video. And it really encapsulates the perfect it's like a definitely like a lesbian movie but in like a 4-minute video because all
Hmm.
it is like very subtle sexual tension, of them like doing each other's makeup and just like glancing over and then looking away and then glancing back, and then the
Right.
tensions all and then they finally kiss at the end and it's very very well made. It's a cute video. Like it just looks like a little indie movie in a little video. And the song is great. I love the lyrics. Um uh I definitely think like I don't know how famous Haley Kiyoko was in terms of music before then. I know
Hmm.
she had definitely been in the scene for a minute, but that was when I first heard of her.
Yeah.
And when she kind of came into my brain a lot more and yeah, that was a great song. I remember listening to it a lot when it first came out. Like I was jamming out to it hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a good one.
And yeah, she was on Disney Channel before. Like that's kind of how she
Mhm.
got like her big start. And it's so interesting. Like I want to do another segment on just Disney Channel stars and like how they've like impacted music or just changed their career, because she is definitely one of those people. Demi Lovato is definitely another one of those people who like after leaving Disney has kind of been more free to explore her sexuality. Like we talked about her a bit. Miley Cyrus too was like another huge
Mhm.
one. Like she's I think she identifies as bi-curious or one of those things. I don't know for sure.
I definitely think she identifies as bisexual, I think, but mainly I think she says that um her gender is very much where she feels like because she's been quoted saying, I don't feel gay, but I also don't feel straight. And she said, oh, that
Mm,
finally makes sense because I don't think I'm a boy or a girl. So
right.
it's hard to put a gay or straight label on it. So she's definitely queer. And she's been in the game for forever. And like, you're right that she's like a lot of other Disney stars that, we kind of, as a society, want to keep them as innocent, cute little kids for the rest of their lives. So they
Hmm.
go kind of even harder on proving that they're, sexual beings and they're, uh, kind of breaking those norms a little bit harder, just like Demi Lovato
Hmm.
and everybody. But and she kind of people were really pissed at her for a while, like just
Yeah.
like thinking that she was just awful. But I think she's come back around. I've always liked her. I've always been a
I
Miley
like her.
fan.
I have so
I've
much
always
respect
been on
for
the
her.
Miley train. Oh my god, yeah. And I've loved her latest stuff more than I've loved anything she's ever come out
Hmm.
with. Yeah. And uh I definitely know more of her than I do Demi Lovato for sure. But
Hmm. I want to ask you about Lil Nas' song "Montero Call Me by Your Name"
yeah.
because like that video and that song have gotten so much shit, and I just don't see why. Like I think it was like parents were mad because their kids were watching it, and they were like,
Hmm.
our kids shouldn't be watching. Well, why are your kids watching it in the first place? And second of
Yeah.
all, I mean, that's their choice. Like they're watching it. I'm like, artists are going to put out art that's like representative of what they want. So you shouldn't be
Hmm.
mad at your kid watching that. You know what I mean? Like, yes, like it's
Yeah.
not, the video itself is not like the most PG friendly. Like it's not
But it's
something
not the
that,
worst either.
oh yeah,
It
it's
could
not
be
the
a
worst.
lot, yeah.
Yeah, like what it like you've seen the video, I assume,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah, what did you think of it?
Well, I loved it right off the bat, and I think he is brilliant
Mhm.
because I feel like he created the video especially, but the song and the video, knowing it was going to make people mad, and
Mhm.
therefore getting a lot of media attention and stuff on it. Which is the same thing with the shoes that turned out to be nothing.
Yeah.
The satanic shoes or whatever that had like drops
Yeah,
of human blood or
I
whatever.
think it was Nike
Yeah.
was trying to sue them for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like genius, super smart. That's like so many people have listened to that song and watched that video because of the controversy behind it. And
Mhm.
like, yeah, there's lots of shit that. Am I allowed to cuss on your podcast, by
Yeah,
the
I don't
way?
care. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Because I was like, I haven't asked that yet. There's lots of shit that your kids shouldn't watch. Make sure they don't watch it. Everyone has different standards for what their kids can and can't, consume. So set those rules for your kids, but you don't ask artists to only make PG videos. So just
Mhm.
in case your kid stumbles across them, and a lot of people were mad about the religious aspect of it, but like he's in hell and he's dancing on the devil. I
Mhm.
mean, like, would you prefer it if he were in heaven and dancing up on and grinding on God and giving God a lap dance? Like, this seems like you would prefer it to be the devil, right? And then he kills the devil right
Right,
afterwards.
yeah.
Like, this is like a Christian anthem. He
There's some
literally,
meaning there. Yep.
yeah, he kills the devil. Like, that's awesome, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
should be totally behind this.
Yeah.
No, yeah, people were really pissed at the religious imagery and everything behind it. And I honestly don't know what all the symbolism means, but I love
Mhm.
it. Anything that makes my parents mad, I'm usually pretty behind.
Oh my god,
Um
retweet. Re-fucking
I
tweet
am
that shit.
behind it.
And
Oh
it's
yeah.
funny because another point we brought up earlier was like artists occupying different genres that isn't the stereotypical like gay music genre. And he is like one of those artists because he is a rapper and he's in hip hop. And that's,
Oh yeah.
you really put those wheels in motion too, like for artists, for
Hmm.
rappers especially African American artists to be more open about their sexuality.
Yeah, Frank Ocean broke down a lot of barriers in the
That's
hip
true.
hop.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, like he was one of the first hip hop artists that came out as gay, correct? Like, not that I
I
know of
think so,
anyway.
yeah.
And yeah, that's definitely a genre and a community where it takes a few extra steps to be out and proud and accepted when he was pretty accepted by his peers and by the community. And I think it was just because of all the artists that came before him that broke down all of those barriers and you know, helped him and all the other artists get to that place. And Lil Nas X, like, everyone who came before him helped him get to that place too, because he not only is he like, yeah, I'm gay, you know, like meekly saying, yeah, I'm gay, whatever.
Like he's like, I'm gay, bitch. It. Yeah, like he's just so open about it, and I love it. Like he's
just like obnoxiously shoving it in people's faces, and I love it.
We need people like that too. Like we just need people to make it more of a thing and to just not be afraid to just put it out there.
Oh yeah, agreed. Hard agree.
Have you ever seen the music video or heard of the song Girls Chase Boys by Ingrid Michelson? That's another one I have on my list.
Yes. And that one's an interesting one because Ingrid Michelson is awesome. I've seen her live twice. She's a badass. We love Ingrid Michelson. She's straight. Yes. And like I said, that's another person that I'm like, oh, you're really popular in the gay community. And this is a very, very gay song and music video. Like the music video is really, really gay too.
Yeah, I love that video too.
It's a good song. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's very cute. It's very like kind of similar to some of the other songs you've mentioned. How about any songs that you came up with? Why don't I let you share any that you might have that you want to share with the class?
Yeah, well, let me just look at my 20-page document here.
Keep scrolling.
I know. So I'm a big fan of Queen. I'm a big fan of Freddie Mercury. And when I looked through like people who were pretty prominent in the 70s and into the 80s, you know, Elton John, David Bowie, Freddie Mercury were all, you know, gay icons during that time. A lot of them, obviously, all three of those guys really expressed themselves through their gender expression and the type of performances they put on. And, you know, especially Freddie, who is like really is rock and roll, but, you know, it's gay rock and roll. You know, it's awesome. Yeah. It's great. He's one of the greatest singers in the history of rock music, and he has very flamboyant, you know, stage persona and everything. He never came out, for one. Like that's wild. But my favorite song of theirs is I Want to Break Free. And the music video that accompanies that is all of them in drag. It's a great video. I'm pretty sure it caused quite the uproar when it came out, like which is how you know something will be remembered is if it makes a lot of people mad, you know? And that's how you know progress is being made, is if it makes people mad, like
it's you breaking have to, the norm, yeah.
Yeah. You have to make people mad for quite a bit of time before, like I said, they get less and less shocked every time, and then they're not as mad anymore. And that's when you finally like have made some, you know, real progress.
Facts.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites of Queen, which is a great gay anthem. Yeah, like other iconic gay songs. I mean, so I would doing some research on like the 80s and stuff, and like I like gay anthems. Yeah, the YMCA by the Village People. You know, that's like a gay song. I did not
even think of that.
Oh my god. That is so wild, because like my whole life I was like, oh yeah, this is a gay song written by gay people for gay people. But the more I looked into it, like straight up, the heterosexual frontman for the Village People it like has said it is not about gay sex, and he wants everyone to know it's not about gay sex, and he will sue anyone who tries to like claim it is about gay sex. And I'm just like, oh, that's weird. Well, like, and then he said, well, I'm fine with gay people, by the way, but this is not like I'm okay with that they adopted it as their anthem. But I'm like, it's about gay sex. Just relax. We've like taken
you're
over
all the men to get together at the Y. Come on, there's something
Death
there.
of the author. We've decided it's about gay sex. You can go home now. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's only done at family picnics now, so who's really getting hurt?
Exactly. It's done at like weddings and stuff, like very straight
It's
weddings
true.
too.
Oh
It's the
my
gayest
god.
song you'll hear at a straight wedding.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I don't know. What are some of your favorite iconic gay
Yeah, like some of
anthems?
the other songs too that I referenced in the post that I put out.
Mm-hmm.
Halsey is one of my icons. I
Yeah.
adore her. I would marry her in a heartbeat if she asked me to. I'm really hoping she does hear this. Halsey, I accept. Her song Strangers, which actually like I have a really personal connection to. I don't know if you're familiar with that song. It's not one of her bigger
I'm
ones.
not.
It came off of her Hopeless Fountain Kingdom album, which was her second album. And it's with I can never say her last name, Lauren, who used to be in Fifth Harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both of them now, Halsey and Lauren, identify as bisexual. Halsey might actually be a little bit more than that. I'd have to double check that for sure. But that song talks about when you're in that environment of just wanting like companionship, and like we all kind of fall in those habits where we just want physical touch or sex or whatever, and it
Mm-hmm.
might not be the best thing because it's from somebody you're just not really supposed to be with, or might not be like the greatest person. And that song, like the main chorus is, we're not lovers, we're just strangers with the same damn hunger to be touched, to be loved, to feel anything at all. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's funny because that song I discovered at like a time where I was kind of going through something similar. And the more I looked into it, I was like, this is kind of a gay song. Like this is kind of
Yeah.
talking about, because it's obviously two women on the track. So I go, I think that's kind of the innuendo that she's putting on there is, you
Mm-hmm.
know, if you're in those settings, it doesn't matter who you're with. Like it could just happen. Like it could just be with whoever you're really feeling at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I highly recommend that song, Strangers by Halsey. Like it's a really, really good one.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna have
vibe
to check
to
that
it.
out.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. And obviously like to bring it back to Kalani and how like I inspired this whole segment. Her song Honey, which was from 2017, is another like amazing gay song where like people started to question her sexuality because it's just her saying like, I like my girls just like I like my honey. So like right off the bat, everyone's like, whoa,
You
okay.
gay, you're gay.
And she's like, no, no, no. And then obviously flash forward to now. She's like, oh yeah, I am. Like, and it's funny too in that
Maybe a
video.
little bit.
Yeah, in that video too, like she's like, my parents and my family were like, we know. And it's like, Kalani, you put out that song, people are gonna be like, yeah, she's probably into chicks.
Oh yeah, I love it when artists like their fan base like knows that what their sexuality is before they even know it. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, listen to your lyrics. Have you heard them? Like,
Yeah,
they're
we're
pretty
on
gay.
this journey with you. This is
Yeah.
just what we're taking in. I think it's about time that you do the same.
Yeah, like we're just waiting, you know, any day now for you to come out of the closet.
For sure, yeah. Well, Monica, I want to thank you so much for coming on and doing this. Like
Yeah.
this has been so like informative. I think we hit like a lot of different artists and points. So I'm super, super honored that you decided to come on and do this segment with me. I really appreciate it.
I had so much fun, and I could talk about gay music for hours, and I'm very happy that you brought me on here, and it was so nice to like officially like meet you and talk with you, and
Ditto.
I've had the best time, and thank you so much for letting me be on here. It's been so much fun.